Hi, this is Christine Donnelly, and I am going to be sharing with you the ins and outs of my internship as a technology leader for the 2017-2018 school year. Some background information is that I work at Murray Hill Middle School as a sixth grade math teacher. This year, I was also fortunate enough to have the role as TDL, which is a teacher development liaison. What that looks like is I work to provide professional learning opportunities for new teachers specifically, but it can also work for the entire school staff as well, if that's what the principal sees necessary. And I also am the Canvas liaison for the school. So, spring and summer in 2017, I was brainstorming some ideas of what would be meaningful um, for our staff in terms of tech integration and my internship. So I had thought about it in my ET 680 class as I was researching about technology leaders, and had a bunch of ideas, but thought that our school really hasn't had professional learning opportunities since I've been there 3 years ago. So that was kind of my initial idea. Um, my principal was on board when we just spoke briefly about it, to the point where me and the media specialist sent out a technology survey to the staff, asking what kind of technology tools they use in their classroom, how often, the pros and cons, and just to get an idea of where each teacher was in the building. Um, from this, we could see there was a variety of tools being used, but there was also a variety of levels between the teachers. There were some that didn't use technology at all unless they had to, and others that just were very impressive. So I sent this out, or we sent this out. I also was interviewing some staff members about their feelings with Canvas, because I wanted to um, focus on this to a certain extent, as it is Howard County's learning management system and it's mandatory. So I figured this would be a good thing to think about as well. So when I was interviewing people, I was thinking of Ely's 8 conditions of change and seeing if that would be something teachers would be open to learning about. So in the summer, I met with my principal. We had a day of planning and worked out what it would look like, what professional learning would look like each month, and how we were going to hold teachers accountable. It was great. And literally the next day, a new principal was placed. So my mind a little bit exploded. It was the first hardship of my internship, and it was a big one, because I didn't know this new principal and I didn't know if she would be open to our plans. So come August, I met with our new principal, Miss Smithson, and explained what I had planned. And she was very open, but being a new principal, having less than a month until students come, and kind of working through some of the kinks that she did and didn't understand of the school, she asked if we could kind of pare down the plan. Totally understandable. I was a little bit bummed because I was excited about what I had planned, but I was ready to work with her and wanted to be open to her plan as well. One of her first observations was that Canvas was not fully utilized at Murray Hill, and she was kind of underwhelmed by teacher Canvas pages. So she wanted me to really focus on that, which was great because I had done some preliminary work on that anyway with my interviews. We discussed my TDL role, what I was going to do with the new teachers, my Canvas role, just kind of being that person to answer questions for teachers, and went from there. So what we decided to do is kind of think of a goal, and this was my internship goal that I kind of used to gear me for the whole year. And so I thought about, I want to cultivate an environment that gears towards increasing Canvas usage and understanding through goal setting, internal professional development opportunities, and accountability, which Ms. Smithson was totally on board with. In August, I met with the new teachers. My original hope was to kind of utilize that time to integrate technology with them and help them become more affluent with technology in their classroom, and then become leaders so that we could spread this to throughout the school. Obviously, the first week, they're all pretty overwhelmed. There's some new teachers to Howard County. There were some new teachers to the building, and then there were some new teachers in general. They had no teaching experience. So it was going to be a wide variety of experiences. There were over 20 new teachers, so that was another challenge in and itself, but I looked at it as an opportunity to reach a lot of people in the building. Finally, in August at the pre-service meetings, I shared Canvas expectations that Ms. Smithson had shared with me to the staff. So we talked about her expectations for our Canvas homepages, what information should be on there, what they should look like. And then I gave them a heads up that we were going to be required as staff members to create a Canvas goal and be prepared to demonstrate growth throughout the year. So that was at our pre-service meetings, and just giving everybody a heads up based on my discussions with Ms. Smithson. So when I was thinking about this internship, I took into consideration some of the theories we had talked about in courses. So I mentioned Ely's 8 conditions for change. When I had interviewed some of the teachers, there were some that were very evident, some that were not so much. There was a dissatisfaction with status quo in terms of the administration was dissatisfied with how Canvas was being utilized. It's a program or a learning management system paid for by the county that has lots of features, but it wasn't being used to its full capacity by any means at Murray Hill. There were sufficient knowledge and skills in our school, though. Lots of teachers had kind of worked through some kinks with Canvas and figured things out. So there were lots of people who could help promote this. There's availability of resources. Me being the Canvas liaison, I had contacts within the county. There were resources online. So we definitely had resources, and there's availability of time because Ms. Smithson was making sure of that. In our planning, she was going to give some time from faculty meetings to utilize specifically for Canvas. I will go more into this later, but that was availability time in the beginning. It changed the second half of the year, unfortunately. Leadership, the admin was on board. So the main things that we needed were incentives and commitment from the teachers. When I think about the ACOT stages of tech integration, there were a few people at entry level. Some, like I said before, refused to use technology in their classroom unless they had to. And then there were some at the complete opposite end of the spectrum that they were at appropriation level. They were doing great things, making changes to the learning process in their classroom because of technology. That was very few. And then most of the teachers demonstrated a level of adoption or adaptation where they were practicing with tools, they were using tools, and maybe some of them were letting students use these tools to change how learning was happening in their rooms. And then lastly, the perceived attributes from the diffusion theory. Thinking specifically about Canvas, compatibility, this was something that we already had to use. So it was one less thing they had to find. It was compatible with what they were doing in the classroom. They had calendars, they had means of communication, they had quiz capabilities. So it was compatible for the needs of the school. The relative advantage was that there are lots of features and it's all housed in one place as opposed to finding different sites that maybe you are or are not comfortable with. The complexity, there could be very simple things that you do, and then it also can be more complex and more involved if you want it to be. So there were pros and cons about that. The trialability, there was really no choice. This was the learning management system Howard County uses, but you can use it and I guess determine it's not for you and stop. It's just not what the county was expecting. And then observability, you had to be in contact with other teachers. You had to be talking with students. You could see different things, like if I give a quiz on Canvas, I know that my students get their immediate grade. So it's that immediate feedback that we're looking for. But teachers wouldn't know that unless they tried it or were talking to other people. So based on these, I felt like this could be a good internship. I probably will have people who will grow and be open to learning. So I got pretty excited about it. September, we had the students show up. So it was full on teaching at this point. The new teachers, pretty overwhelmed, but they were doing a good job. We had a meeting, and I could tell from this meeting that this was going to be different than I had anticipated. They were going to need support, whether it be in terms of classroom management or teaching strategies or behavior strategies. The needs were going to be greater than I anticipated. So technology integration tools might not be where I head with this. That was my thought process. Disappointing, but I had to do what was needed for the teachers, not what I needed in terms of my wants for my internship. This was the month that me and Ms. Smithson talked about setting Canvas goals for each of the staff members. She and I met, planned out what it was going to look like for the next few months, what we were going to require of students or of teachers, hold them accountable, set some dates, and worked well together. So I was encouraged by this meeting with her. And then I created 2 Canvas forms, Google Forms. So the first one was for teachers to kind of self-assess how they were with Canvas. Let me show you what that looks like. So they were looking at different features of Canvas and rating themselves 1, no experience, to 2, or to 5, the extensive experience and knowledge. And so they just went through and self-assessed how they felt about each feature that was mentioned. When I looked at the responses, I could see that at the beginning, like, most of them knew how to access, which was great. Logging on, and looking at their particular courses. But as the features got more challenging, less people, so the 5 is that they feel confident with it, less people were feeling confident with the features. So this was to guide them for creating their own goals related to Canvas. And so then they sent another Google form with their name and what their goal was. Lastly, in September, I initiated office hours, told them I had an open door policy. Any questions they have, I would be more than willing to help. And if I didn't have the answers, I would find them for them. So October is when we collected and analyzed the Canvas goals with Ms. Smithson. So as you can see over here, this is the teacher's name, their goal. And so we color coded them by what they wanted to become more proficient with. So we ended up with these 5: communication, quizzes, modules, assignment submissions, and rubrics, and decided those were going to be the first professional learning sessions that we were going to host for the teachers to help promote their growth towards their goal. So we grouped those teachers, and obviously with 5 different groups, I couldn't teach all of them. So we also had to recruit some experts within the building, which I think is great when you're thinking about adult learners. Giving them choice, giving them opportunities to learn based on what they need is always good for buy-in, but then also giving teachers that leadership opportunity helps promote and incentivize learning. So we recruited them and all started planning the first session to be held at the beginning of next month. So in November, we implemented that first Canvas professional learning session. It went really well. A lot of the teachers gave the feedback that they felt better about what they were trying to do with Canvas. They talked about needing more time, which is great, because if you want more time, then that means you're going to try it. In my group personally, for communication, I asked them to share out what they hope to do before next month's session. So we shared within our group, and I told them to kind of think about what they could share to each of the group or to the group to demonstrate that they were trying to learn and bring any questions they had. It was also November when I introduced online professional learning sessions. So as Ms. Smithson and I analyzed the document and the goals that people were setting, we could not meet everybody's need at once. So what I proposed to her and what we ended up deciding on is I would do some short screencasts, and trust me, they were short because we didn't want to overwhelm the teachers. So short screencasts on the things that other features of Canvas that people were interested in, but it wasn't necessarily their first goal. So I went to team meetings to promote this. I sent out emails. I talked to people face to face, showed them how to do it, where it was going to be located, and really tried to promote it will take 5, maybe 10 minutes, and we can all grow well with each other. So November, I also had new teacher meetings. And again, it's from this point, I realized the tech integration was not going to be my main focus. So again, disappointing, but I wanted to make sure the new teachers felt like they were getting what they actually needed. During my office hours, I have teachers come in frequently asking questions, which is great. So it's kind of like a tutor session, not what I originally thought, but people come in, ask questions, and I can help troubleshoot for them there. And then lastly, in November, I held a parent night. So the parent night was part of a Passport to Success night where teachers, sorry, not teachers, representatives from different colleges and different careers come to Murray Hill and kind of explain the process, explain what needs to happen for them to be involved with college, to get the process rolling. Even though they're in middle school, time flies, as we always share with them. So at this Passport to Success night, I held a Canvas parent session. The agenda items here is kind of what I work to show them. They downloaded the app. They had an overview of the HCPSS Connect, checking announcement, emailing teachers, checking grades, setting notifications, and then had a question answer time. The parents who came in found it very helpful. We emailed them the presentation afterwards so that they had this as a resource. We did it in the computer lab so that parents could get right on to online and work with us. And the feedback was great. I was really excited about it. I worked hard on it. So the feedback being positive is obviously what I want to hear. Now, the downfall is I had originally set up certain times for it to start. So at 6 or at 6:30 was when I was going to start. And I think that limited the foot traffic in the room. So people who came at 6:45 thought, oh, they can't come in, so they would bypass this opportunity. So thinking about next year, if I'm able to do this again, I would just kind of have an open door policy. Come in, I'll share with you what I can, maybe recruit different people to come help, and just make it kind of a workspace where we can help them through and email the presentation to them. So an individual learning opportunity. December is a crazy month for everybody. There's holidays, the kids are getting antsy. So there was a lot going on. And for me, I was leaving for maternity leave, which I was really anxious about in terms of work and my internship. So I was trying to be proactive in everything I did. So the first thing was we held the second Canvas professional learning session, and the feedback was great. So I have one example here from a teacher, and the first thing that I asked them was, what did you do between last meeting and this meeting that shows you were trying to work? And everybody had a response, and they were great, showing growth. And then, of course, more importantly, almost, I was asking their feedback on how it was going and what we can do to help them. And if you look down here, I loved that this person was ready to move forward and wanted to move forward. So I had gone through some slides, helped them show more features, and then even still people were ready for more. So I was really excited about that. These professional learning sessions were going really well. the feedback, not just in my group, was good, and overall people were glad to be doing it during the faculty meetings. So after I analyzed these reflections, I was ready. I had some ideas that I was sharing with Ms. Smithson for either in January, asking her about January, or if she wanted to wait till I returned from maternity leave. So I had some ideas, and we were going to wait till I came back. That being said, I uploaded another professional learning session, and teachers were not really working on them at all. So that was really disappointing. My professional learning sessions were not going how I thought. I mean, it was clear some people were watching them because they would come to my office hours and ask questions, but it was not, nobody was posting or leaving evidence that they were watching them. So it had to be more a hearsay of like, oh, when I was watching this, I saw this, can you help me? That kind of thing. So that was really discouraging. I talked to some of my cohort classmates to see what they were doing differently. And a lot of them were having some of the same issues. So I tried to incentivize it with a gift card to Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks for anybody who responded. I'd put their name in a hat and we'd pick a drawing, and still nothing. So that was really discouraging as a tech leader intern for the school. I had another new teacher meeting in December. Obviously, they're at that bottom slump of being totally overwhelmed and frustrated with things, but there's a lot of good people that have come to Murray Hill this year. And finally, during office hours, it's kind of hit or miss with what they need help with. Sometimes it's Canvas, sometimes it's other computer issues, and sometimes it's suggestions for teaching strategies. So in January, I had to troubleshoot from home. Before I left, I told them, please email me. They made fun of me for that, but I told them, like, I want to still be a part of this. And some people took me up on that. So I was happy to respond to them. It gave me some adult contact, which is always great. So I appreciated them feeling comfortable enough to do that. I also uploaded another Canvas professional learning session. This being the end of the semester, a lot of teachers who teach semester courses needed to change or update their Canvas pages, so I put some resources on here. I didn't have them respond in any way because the last time it didn't work, so I gave them a break from that, knowing that it's a crazy time of year, but just kind of had the resources for them to grow in their learning around Canvas. February, I was still on maternity leave, but I couldn't stay away. So I organized a cupcakes and artifacts party. I made this to advertise from Pictochart, and basically teachers in evaluation have to upload artifacts related to the Danielson framework and showcasing what they were doing in their classrooms that aligns with the different domains, particularly domains 1 and 4. So because we have a new principal for the third year in a row, the expectations were probably going to be a little different, and people were nervous about that. So I had Ms. Smithson come and talk about it. And then we had a work session where I could help them with the tech aspect of looking at Frontline, which is the platform in which teachers upload their artifacts. They could work with each other to talk about different artifacts and just really get a head start on these since they were due in May. This was a great turnout. I had over 20 teachers show up. I had Ms. Smithson there. She gave great information to them, and people were really appreciative of the time and the opportunity to ask questions to her and to me about the platform of Frontline. I brought cupcakes, which apparently incentivizes a little bit, but I also really think it's because they wanted to do on their evaluations, which totally understand, but cupcakes didn't help. Or didn't hurt, sorry, they did help. I also got a couple more emails, so I was able to troubleshoot from home and keep in contact, and offered them any help with Frontline that I could, even while I was away. March, I came back. I hosted a new teacher meeting. They were in a good place. It seems like they're doing well, and the issues that they uh, were having were typical teacher issues. So we had discussions, we worked around things, but again, just not a time to integrate new technology ideas for them. Office hours, I still had them. People came. I answered as many questions as I could. I helped with Canvas issues. One teacher was having trouble with the quizzes, which she was working on because of her Canvas goal, which I was really excited about. I did do another professional learning session online. This one was around the UDL framework. So it gave them resources, helped them think about it in terms of their planning, and I added a discussion. Again, even though I incentivized it with Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks, no one did the discussion part, although people did come and ask me questions about some of the resources. So I know some people watched it, but it just wasn't the turnout that I had hoped for. Uh, the bad news was, and this was pretty heartbreaking, I was told by my principal that we weren't going to do the Canvas professional learning sessions anymore face to face during faculty meetings because she had decided to take a different route, with reading strategies in the classroom. So I understand that she saw a need and decided to go that way. I wasn't there, but I was really heartbroken because, like I said before, in December, I was really charged up about people's enthusiasm about learning about Canvas and working towards those goals they had set. Sad to hear. April, I did more one-on-one Canvas help because I wasn't able to hold the professional learning sessions face-to-face during the faculty meetings. Particularly with the people in my group, I would check in with them. How's this going? Can I do anything? Some were receptive, some put it on the back burner since there was no accountability for it anymore. So that was pretty upsetting as an intern who had worked really hard for that. Office hours I still had. And then when I realized that the thing that was working most for my internship had been changed or removed, I went to my AP to ask if there was anything else I could do in terms of Canvas or as a tech leader. And she asked me to help clean up the Murray Hill Middle School Canvas page and organize it for next year. So she and I worked together to do that. We wanted to make it a platform that was easy to access and people could find what they needed quickly and make it better for teachers no matter what level they felt they were on for Canvas. May continue to do that. I held a frontline and artifact meeting for not only new teachers, but any staff members. Quite a few people came. I helped them upload any artifacts on Frontline, have discussions about what their artifacts were, and just kind of work through the whole process with them as they needed it because they were due in May. People came during my office hours, particularly related to artifacts. So not as much technology based, but they were glad for me to help them during the office hours. And then in May, I also sent out an evaluation to the staff for my internship. Reflecting on this, I realized that it was way too vague. I sent out a Google form and just made it 2 questions in hopes of getting more feedback from them. It was, what do you think went well for the internship? So I put in parentheses like the online professional learning sessions, the face-to-face professional learning sessions, and office hours, and then what could be improved. And a lot of people who responded, which there was only 10, a lot of people that responded said, you did great. And while I appreciate that, it's not helpful. So I was pretty bummed out about that. Because of this, I decided to go to certain people that I felt comfortable with and knew that they'd be honest with me and say, okay, can you let me know what you think went well, what I could do differently, why wasn't there any participation in this. And there were a couple people who were honest. The online professional learning sessions, there was no accountability. They didn't have time. They felt like it wasn't a priority. So even with the incentive of a gift card, or there was a couple times I looked at the IPVO wish pool, but both times I looked, it was a document camera, which we have in our classroom. So the incentive just wasn't there in their minds. There was no intrinsic motivation, no reason to do it. They had enough on their plates type deal. They did really like the Canvas sessions, but when they weren't held accountable for them anymore and knew that they didn't have to demonstrate growth, they kind of stopped there. Some people said they still utilize the features that they were working on, which is great, but there was no more growth opportunities or professional learning opportunities for growth as a staff. So this gave me time to reflect on next year. And these were kind of my main takeaways. It sounds like most of the people I talked to did find the face-to-face sessions successful and helpful. The online sessions were not as received by people, or not received as well by people. Parent night was great, but again, like I said earlier, I would have it more as a drop-in so that people didn't feel like they missed the beginning and didn't come in. And it was good for getting family buy-in. I noticed that when my students' families were using Canvas, my students felt more confident with Canvas. They knew I was in communication with their parents, and it was great. So having that parent night, I think, opened up doors. I feel like, based on the hearsay information, there was a lot of Canvas growth, but I need to figure out better ways of getting that documented so that I have data for this in the future. The new teacher meetings, I need them to be reworked for next year. Some of them didn't feel as productive, maybe more like a complaining session, which is needed. A venting session is needed, I get it, but I was thinking reworking them a little bit so that they're doing the learning online, which is also modeling what they can do in their classroom, and then coming to share ideas in the face-to-face part. I need to be better with incentives and giving them motivation for participating. The office hours proved very effective. I looked at them as like little tutor sessions, but it got people what they needed quickly. And then the things that really worked against me, that were out of my control and out of anybody's control, my principal was new. She had a lot on her plate. I totally understand. But that was kind of hard. And then me being gone for a couple of months on maternity leave obviously played against me. So next steps, I would love to continue my role as a technology leader, and it sounds like that's going to be a possibility, which is awesome. I want to discuss strategies with my cohort classmates to figure out what went well for them in doing online professional learning sessions and making them more effective. So just using them as a PLN to get those ideas and make it more successful. Meet with Ms. Smithson to decide together what professional learning is going to look like for the whole year, so there's not this disappointment on either end in the middle of next year. I would love to propose a technology committee, because even this past year we recognized that she and I could not do it alone. And then, like I was just mentioning before, revamp what the new teacher meetings are going to look like so that there can be technology integration and change what learning is looking like. So I'm really pleased with the opportunity to learn and grow from my internship. I'm pleased with how it went overall. I'm proud of the people who helped me through this. I'm proud of myself for persevering even when things got a little bit difficult. But overall, I find that this internship has just increased my desire to be a technology leader for those in my building, so that in the long run, we are doing the best we can to make our students great leaders for the future. So thanks for listening, and I appreciate any feedback you can give me to improve my learning.